big baseball guy, and ESPN ended its partnership with Major League Baseball, after 30 something years. It dates all the way back to 1990. And our buddy Josh Unger over at the debate show that I do at Championship Rings in collaboration with Voltage Live as well, I thought made a great point of the fact that, ESPN may be looking to add maybe a WNBA contract with their potential expansion of more teams. Maybe that's how they become more of a, winter league and they supplement that more in the summer with basketball and hockey. I think that this provides, though, a great opportunity for baseball. I think ever since John Miller and Joe Morgan left the Sunday Night Baseball booth, Sunday Night Baseball has been a show of itself, barely exists. I would love to see, like, I think CBS would be a really interesting partner for them
Oh,
because they have the Paramount Network with streaming. They don't
exactly.
they don't really have a ton of sports outside of March Madness in the summer.
hmm
Um,
The
you know,
only
eh,
problem would be running into the fall with college football, and that would be your only concern.
Yeah, but that's on Saturday. Like you could still do like after a football on Sunday, you could do
hmm
an 8 o'clock game or something like that.
Right.
Or you do like I think they could do a split up the rights because as we know, you still have the rights with Fox and TBS for 2 more seasons.
hmm
Maybe you give CBS some of the rights and you throw in an Amazon Prime. 'Cause the Roku deal is a disaster, right?
Oh, Roku.
So the Roku deal is a disaster. So maybe Amazon Prime's already bringing in football and basketball, right? Maybe you bring in baseball once the basketball season ends for a couple of weeks or what have you, a Thursday
hmm
night baseball, to have sports on there year round. I don't know. Like I even thought NBC after the basketball season, maybe Sunday night baseball with NBC after Sunday night basketball. I feel
I
like,
don't see NBC as a partner, especially if they didn't decide to continue with Peacock. That's where it's
yeah.
like, I'm not saying that it's a bad relationship, but in terms of ESPN, though, getting to that point real quick, Brandon, like they did what was financially responsible for them. And honestly, yes, I agree. It's been a show of itself. And I did this, I was looking this up for, I think it was for a potential column, or I forget if it even got posted, just about the whole Yankees and Red Sox, just the oversaturation because I was looking at when they finally released this year's like up until like a certain point in like August or September, the Sunday night baseball matchups, and it's like the first time that they could have like Red Sox Yankees would be in like late August, early September. Like the last couple of years, like 3 of the last 4 years, they've had like 3-1, 3-4, something like that, where they've had like just Red Sox Yankees on Sunday night. And it's just been like, all the big markets. I was looking at some of that data. Like it's not on front of me, but it's like the main thing is that ESPN, and I get why you're trying to get the big markets, but they weren't promoting the game. They were promoting the big money players. That's what they were promoting. You weren't promoting Cleveland versus Detroit, Scooble versus Bobby. You weren't promoting like Bobby Witt versus the Orioles, Adley Rushman, Grayson Rodriguez, etc. You weren't promoting Ellie De La Cruz against even Cleveland too. Just to throw another example out there, like those, there are so many exciting teams, and even though it's business wise for ESPN, MLB will have a chance if they can do this right. And I'm not sure how much confidence I have. I'm going to just be flat out on that. If if Major League Baseball can do this right and not just promote the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies, maybe Phillies are a little bit too harsh on them, but you get what I mean. Like all the super, super big markets. If you are able to promote those guys who are, more the little guys, especially, Cleveland's got a good team. Cincinnati's going to be good this year. You're going to have, the Orioles, the Royals, you're going to have, let me think NL for a second here, just trying to think, a little bit smaller market size. The Nationals could be a surprise team this year. You're going to have, let me see, NL Central. The Brewers are always, pretty good. I still think they're going to be a good team this coming year. The NL West, you're going to have the Diamondbacks probably bouncing back a bit. And then you got the Giants who've gone out in a flurry of spending for most of, the last couple months. Like this is going to be, and I get the Giants are a bigger market, but they're one of those teams where it's like, they don't feel that way at times. Like you need to be able to promote other markets. I get it. The Colorados and the Miamis of the world continually, perpetually screwing things up
Colorado.
doesn't help. But right now, I think there's a chance for Major League Baseball to rectify its popularity problem in local markets and not just catering to the national.
Well, I think they've done that the last few years with the implementation of the pitch clock and the banning the shift and the
Oh,
stuff.
I'm just talking about televising. They need to
Okay.
stop just televising
Yeah.
only the big boys.
Well,
I
and I
get there are
do.
certain matchups you have to, yes. But the fact that it's been oversaturated by Mets, Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, Yankees, Red
Well,
Sox, Yankees, Mets, or
well,
whatever, like
for the
that's been a
record,
problem for me to
for
see.
the
Like,
record, I
yeah,
think last year's postseason, and maybe it had to do with the fact that Shohei Ohtani went to the Dodgers, but and maybe it was the fact that our Cleveland Guardians were in it and they had such a good series, and not only the AODS but the AOCS. I thought last year's postseason was one of the best baseball postseasons overall in a long time.
it was one of the better ones for sure.
It was fun. It was engaging. It was talked about. I think Otani being on the big stage helped, but it does feel like baseball never took advantage of it.
I think they did once the offseason rolled around because the Dodgers then signed everybody. And oh boy, this gets into something really interesting that I'm going to spoil here, folks. There's going to be another labor stoppage in 2 years once this current CBA runs its
How bad
course.
is it going to be, you think?
Bad enough where I could see maybe the ownership sacrificing the whole season.
Wow.
I think, and I'm not saying that there's no collusion, this is no conspiracy theory. I think the Dodgers have finally given baseball fans enough to literally, I know that, baseball fans are more pro owner than they are pro player. But I think the Dodgers, especially this offseason, have finally given fans enough. And then the Mets also with Juan Soto, the Yankees went out and spent a bunch, even though Garrett Cole's getting his elbow looked at, I'm going to guess he's going to be out for the year. They signed Max Fried and others. I think fans have had enough of the non-capped league. There's part of me where I am like that too, but I'm taking this from a practical reporter's standpoint. And this is probably more of a hot take because I know it's unlikely that it would happen, but I think it's more likely to happen than it has in any recent year, where you're going to have some form of spending limitations. And I don't think they're going to it's not going to be like the luxury tax that they have in place right now. But I I just don't see any way because literally the Dodgers, it felt like, Roki Sasaki, pitching phenom from Japan, seemed destined to go there to the Dodgers, like Teoscar Hernandez, Blake Snell, all these other guys. And that's a problem when you have fans who like literally there were teams that didn't even hand out a single big league contract, not one. And that's where you have a problem when you're not even investing in your team, not even extending any core players, let alone that. That's a problem, Brandon. And baseball, literally, I don't think they told Dodgers, hey, go do this. Not at all. The Dodgers are playing within the system right now. They're playing within the rules. What the Dodgers have done is they've gone out, spent, upgraded, and done what they need to do to win. And now it's about the fans. I think when the lockout happens, I think the owners are going to be willing to sacrifice a whole year because the players are going to be desperate once they realize the owners won't buckle. The owners are willing to take a financial hit because they'll probably be able to negotiate at least one more deal before before the lockout. And when they do that, they'll have a little bit of a cushion. And when that happens, they're going to have less incentive to negotiate with the players without getting a cap because they'll be like, hey, look at all these fans because there's a big red flag that went off. And I'm going to actually read. I was writing this up for you potentially to edit as part of a salary cap / salary floor article. Let me just read it out loud for everybody here for a second. I just got to comb through my little things. Rob Manfred comments on February 6th story on ESPN. It was about fans emailing him over the lack of salary cap. Pay attention here now. In previous years, which I've done on some deep dives on the Old Blacksville Radio website about the salary cap and floor dilemma, the Dodgers are the main subject of fan dire these days. And a former top prospect and reliever that, under normal circumstances, would not have been designated for assignment were, in fact, DFA'd for short. They have chosen to take the unprecedented deferrals, all of this and that, and the future isn't here today. It's all isn't here yet today. Today is today, and that's what the Dodgers are capitalizing on. And this one particular quote from Rob Manfred back on February 6th stood out to me. The Dodgers are really well-run, successful organization, Manfred said. Everything that they do and have done is consistent with our rules. They're trying to give their fans the best possible product. Those are all positives. I recognize, however, and my emails certainly reflect, that there are fans in other markets who are concerned about their team's ability to compete. And we always have to be concerned when our fans are concerned about something, but pinning it on the Dodgers, I'm not in that camp, end quote. And he's correct. That's not up for debate. He is 100% right. And I just said that, a few minutes ago. But there's also a few other quotes in here, and I don't want to spoil everything on that. But you have owners from the not even just the Yankees, Hal Steinbrenner. That was a shocker. Both him and the new Orioles owner, David Rubenstein, respectively, have made recent comments that were quoted in an ESPN piece about a cap and or a floor. And I'm not making excuses for the billionaires here. I get why they want it. And reading the tea leaves, I don't see any scenario where we don't end up with a lockout. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see what happened with the previous years, the previous lockout. You're going to get a flurry of free agent activity. And then after that, they're going to have the cap go into place. And I think they will let that happen. I think the owners are going to really push hard because the fans, and you're starting to see some of the owners come out and speak. And the fact that it's not the Orioles owner, it's that Steinbrenner, the Yankees of all people. And even Cohen, I believe, has come out and made a comment or two in the last couple of weeks. The fact that all three of them, and I get the Orioles aren't a big market team, I think you're going to get a lockout, Brandon, and I think it's going to end up being a long one. I'm not happy about it, and I don't want it to happen, but I think the players, especially given that the Dodgers are literally the focus of everybody right now, and the fact that if the Dodgers win one of the next two World Series before the CBA expires, I think the owners will go for it and go for the salary cap. I think they'll be much higher than where the NFL is. They'll have to figure out a system, and they'll also have to implement a spending floor. They'll have to redistribute the revenue around. And that's going to also hurt the Dodgers. What they're doing right now is going to hurt them when their TV revenue and the Yankees and the Mets is going to be redistributed around more equally. But I think there's going to be a massive revolution to baseball coming.
Okay, well, with that in mind, as we head into the 2025 season, tell us about our Cleveland Guardians, and
Oh, yes, indeed.
and
Gavin Williams breakout, baby.
give me
Fully
just
breakout.
give us a preview. I'm not going to ask you a question or anything until maybe if you give me some insight, but just
So Josh Naylor trade was necessary. I think he was not going to perform that well this year in our lineup, not because of a lack of hitting. I think his weight gain has kind of limited him, and you saw that after the first month or two of the season, he did not look the same. His patience not there. Santana will be more of a mentor to Manzardo and while also still drawing walks. He's a good on base machine. He's a smart base runner, even if he's not speedy. He knows what to do. He's a veteran of the game. And Zardo, you're seeing him clicking in spring training, clicking at the end of last year. I like Gabriel Arias right now at second base. Juan Brito is a guy who still interests me, but they're just keeping the seat warm from Travis Bazzana. Bazzana is a legit deal. I will tell you this. I have a source. It was a little bit after the draft, after they'd signed Bazzana. And this is someone who I have known for years, and I trust them completely on this. They said after the draft, the Guardians came clean with this person, my source, and that Bazzana was their guy basically all the way from when they got that draft pick, when they got that surprise number one pick. So Bazzana is a guy who I loved even before I even knew that. Like he was the guy I kept harping on because there was something in Charlie Condon's swing out of Georgia that reminded me of myself that I didn't like, and I won't go into depth on that. But Bazzana is going to be up. If he starts at AA Akron, Bazzana will be up by the end of September. I think there's a chance you see him this summer here in Cleveland because he can be fast tracked. He's a player who doesn't need a ton of really just rubbing it down and trying to grind it out. Like he's a guy who can move pretty quickly. Lane Thomas is a guy I really still would like to see extended for an extra year or two. I am a big fan of my speedy center fielders with pop and whatnot. Right field's going to be interesting. I think John Kenzie Noel is going to take the opportunity
I
now
was
that
just
Chase
saying,
DeLauder.
I think it's his job to lose, is it not?
I'd agree. And I'm going to drop this final little tidbit. This is going to be a bomb that I don't think I've told people before. Noel was one of the highest rated internal prospects for the Guardians heading into 2024. He was one of their highest rated. So, and there was another one who I've maybe talked about in passing before, and if people can figure it out, great. I'm not going to mention that name, but Noel is very highly thought of in that organization. So the Guardians believe in Noel, and they're going to give him every chance. And I think they see the promise already. The main thing is, he's going to strike out a lot. That's going to happen, and you're going to have to deal with that. But he's going to have enough power, and he's going to have enough, offensive pop, enough offensive, impact to remain a big part of this lineup.
Well,
And
he's
the
a
big
power hitter.
reason
That's
why
what he
is Chase
does.
DeLauder is Byron Buxton. It's a minor league only. Like Chase DeLauder would literally be the perfect fit, but he keeps getting injured, and you cannot count on injuries. The best availability is to just be available. And
Is availability. Yeah.
Noel, yeah, I don't think Noel's going to move to first base maybe for another year or two, depending on
No,
how the
I
outfield
don't
situation in the
I don't
pipeline
see it.
progresses. But I
So
think Arias finally, I still think it's a hot take. I still think Brian Rocchio is not your shortstop of the future. Maybe I'm wrong. I just do not see it. I don't. And maybe they can prove me wrong. They've done it before with one or two other players in the past with the Guardians. I'm trying to remember who it was. I'm trying to think of specifically. But I think Arias could actually be your shortstop of the future if you wanted him to be.
yeah, I mean it's a good problem to have. Obviously, that log jam in the infield. I
And
want to
Bo Naylor went nuclear
Well,
yesterday.
okay, so but I want to get off the bat. I want to go to the rotation real quick.
Oh, yeah.
So
Bybee, I love. Williams, I love. Ortiz, I'm not too concerned. Look, he's fine. He'll be fine. There might be some hiccups. There's always sometimes that with guys who get traded. Uh, and then it's the back end of the rotation. Number one, you'll get Shane Bieber back later this summer. All
yep,
right. It's basically like a trade deadline edition. Think
yep.
about that so if the Guardians don't make a move, I'm gonna be like, all right, Bieber's our move. He's re-signed. We have him. We reinsert him. And what I loved that they did, even if he's not going to pitch this year, the Guardians signing John Means, left-hander.
Yeah.
I love that move. For if anyone even remembers back as back in even 2021, he was a great pitcher in my mind. He is a good pitcher still. And I think if Cleveland's Cleveland pitching factory, if Cleveland can get him right, they have a club option on him. Bieber has a player option. That's the difference between the two. But if you are able to get John Means back in 2026, let's say, and then he goes out and has a big year and then gets to go into the free agent market with a big, wave of momentum behind him, that is the best case scenario you could hope for. Because that would basically mean let's say if Bieber leaves after this year, I don't know if that's what happens or not, and Means that instead comes in and replaces that production, you still get pitching from the pipeline from Nikhazy and from others who are coming up. Oh my God, could that be like that could extend that window for a while? And I'm just going to say this for Guardians fans right now. I think the window to extend Tanner Bybee is past. I'm going to be shocked if an extension comes together.
So obviously they made news about the fact that Tyler Naquin's coming over and potentially being a part
Minor
of
league
the
deal, so he's not taking
you
up a
know.
major league spot. So I like the idea because me being an outfielder, outfield mechanics, and I did this with my coach back in high school. Like outfield mechanics are very similar to pitching, especially when it comes, how you're throwing, when you're coming together. Like I'm just standing up here for people who may be watching video. Like, I would have like, one of those screens at my back when I'd be doing some defensive drills and I'd come set almost, and I just like, sometimes I'd have to, just make sure I don't turn my left hip wide. Since I'm a right-handed thrower, I don't turn my left hip wide to be able to throw the ball as an outfielder. And even though it was a pitching drill, they are very similar. They're not,
Well,
one to one exactly, but the Naquin, he pitched in high school, and I get it's been a while, but I like the idea because he's on a minor league deal and it's not going to take up a 40-man spot. So you can let him develop. And it sounds like they're going to be patient from what I can best understand. And I actually asked Naquin a question yesterday, right at the end of the Zoom. And he gave some really interesting insight, especially on that. So just really, I think he's, prepared and he's ready. And I think honestly, with the one thing that people don't realize is the UCL, that ligament that's often repaired for Tommy John, doesn't develop fully until age 26. And guess what? Naquin's in his early 30s. I am less concerned about Naquin blowing out his elbow than I would be other guys right now.
So, Fitz, let me ask you this question because it's something nobody has brought up. And to be honest with you, I think it's kind of a genius idea by yours truly. Um, so I think right now it's kind of locked in that McKenzie might have the on track to be the fifth person in the rotation. But here's what I thought of.
I want
So
McKenzie as a fireman. That's what I want.
I want him in the bullpen.
Yeah. I think
That's
I think what you need to do is put him in the bullpen, not forever. Not forever.
I
I
think
think
he. This is
I
what I
think
said. I think he is your Eli Morgan replacement.
that's not even fair. That's not even fair
Well,
to
well,
Mackenzie's far more talented than Morgan.
okay, but
Number
Eli
one.
Morgan went from the starter to the pen. I mean, McKenzie is
But
more
that
talented, but
level of talent is different, Brandon. Let me
but,
explain it this
but
way.
if he only
Mackenzie's more
has two,
equivalent to Carrasco. Mackenzie's
okay,
more equivalent to Carrasco.
but
So
if
I
he
think
only has two pitches, why not use him in the pen and let him perfect those
Mackenzie's
two
got more than
pitches?
two.
He's
Mackenzie's
got the
got more.
fastball and the curveball. That's it.
He does have. I swear he has a changeup. I know he has a changeup.
Okay,
I know he has one.
maybe he's developing it, but he's mostly a fastball curveball guy. To me, that's what his bread is buttered. I mean,
I think what they're. I think I've advocated for this. I think at one point or another. I call it the Carlos Carrasco treatment, especially for guys like him, for Ciccone that we got from the Diamondbacks. Put them in the bullpen for a short time, then brings them back out. I think if you can pull that off, and the main thing is I'm hopeful that McKenzie's elbow is healthy. I'm hopeful it finally is, but the moment I hear shoulder injury, it's I don't know what happens from there other than it'll be a surgery at some point.
like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.